Penn State falls to number 3 Purdue inside the Bryce Jordan Center on Saturday afternoon, 74-67. The final score. We'll hear from head coach Micah Shrewsbury, as well as a couple of Penn State select student athletes. But for now, let's head on over to the press conference where Purdue addresses the local state college media.
Going through our breakdowns every day in practice, it wasn't necessarily the same plays, but there was kind of 3 categories of plays that we got really familiar with, going through this week, preparing for them. And so I think we were really well prepared for their things. Sometimes we would break down, and that's what Coach would talk to us about. Majority of the time that they were going to score is if we broke down. So we needed to really focus on what we were doing. But in reality, I don't think necessarily he ran a ton of our plays that we ran last year.
Just the battle through the foul trouble that Zach had to deal with, and then to come up with a 3-point play late. What kind of lift did that give you guys?
Man, that just comes with staying in the game. Not letting foul trouble affect your energy towards the game. Although me and Zach, we got in foul trouble. One thing that we talked about going in the locker room was just staying in the game, being present in the game, having energy, because if you let it affect you, then you can't affect the game. So, that was our main focus, just, staying with it, just trusting that, our teammates would get stops, and, it worked out in our favor. So.
Hey, Mason, you guys didn't have a lot of margin for error offensively there, as they were obviously pretty hot shooting the ball. Just how hard was it? Was there any pressure on you guys to execute there at the end, given what they were able to do offensively, and how were you able to sort of overcome that lack of margin for error, so to speak?
Absolutely. When the other team is hot, shooting in the paint, whatever, we really need to focus back on our defense. But our defense can be helped by executing on offense, and we emphasize that, like I said, every day in practice, and then even more so late in games, because majority of the times whenever we do execute, it's a bucket.
Sasha, it looked like they ran a box and one against you specifically there for a little bit. Is that something you've seen before, and what was your reaction when you first saw it?
I've never seen it in college against myself. Obviously, high school, some different teams did it, but yeah, we didn't really work on that. We didn't really expect it to them or for them to do that, but we just try to get in our offense and get. Do our basic motion and try to beat it that way. Box and ones are vulnerable sometimes when you could get the ball inside to our big guys and make good sharp cuts and everything like that. So I thought we did a good job of handling it whenever they went to it. It's something that I'm sure that they don't work on all the time. They just probably implemented it pretty recently. So we tried our best to exploit it, and I think Mason got a big 3 at the end from that. So. Yeah, it wasn't something we worked on. Didn't really expect it, but I thought we did a good job of handling it.
Sasha, it seemed like there was a better defensive energy today. What did you kind of see in terms of the progress in the last game to this one?
Yeah, just like sense of urgency and like realizing like we're trying to do some big things. We're trying to win a Big Ten championship. We're trying to get to the level that we want to be to put ourselves in a great position for March and everything like that. And what we've been doing has been kind of embarrassing and it isn't up to our standard of what we do here in this program. So, we had a kind of reality check, and, we had some great days of practice. We had some good film sessions. We learned a lot. It's not an ability thing. I think we all have the ability to guard on our team. It's just more of a lack of concentration, focus, and then when we put our minds to it, I think we could do some big things. So something that we're always working on in practice. We're always trying to get better, but it's more of a mindset than anything.
Was there any conversation just among the players this week to kind of get yourself straightened out?
Yeah, I mean,
team meeting or something like that?
The world's not ending. I think that we obviously. We talk to one another every single day. We're always with each other in the locker room, hanging out, whatever it is. And, we talk about, things that we need to work on, things in practice. We're always talking. We're always, trying to get better. And like I said, it's just, it's one of those things that it's just it's a concentration thing. It's a mindset that we all need to have collectively, and sometimes when we have few people not doing it, that's what hurts us. So we just need to make sure we're all connected and always communicating on that side of the floor.
Hey Mason, those last few minutes of the first half, obviously you didn't have Zach or Trayvon on the floor. You actually extended the lead, forced a bunch of turnovers, did a pretty good job offensively. What did you kind of learn about yourselves there in that situation? Because obviously you don't probably practice that way.
Coach always harps on, actually, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, he was talking about LeBron James and knowing every spot. And not to say that I know every spot, but I try to learn kind of every spot. So in those situations, it feels good to be prepared whenever our bigs are in foul trouble or in any situation. I asked Coach real quick to double-check what I needed to do on the play that we drew up, and we executed. I think we ended up missing the shot, and I got the rebound. But I think everybody's done a pretty good job of doing their homework. Coach talks to us about it, treating our plays and our schemes and different things like a class, putting time into it every day, looking over it, and it feels good for that to pay off.
Did you do a particularly good job defensively with that line?
That's a couple of select Purdue student athletes addressing the local media following Saturday's game inside the Bryce Jordan Center. As you take a look at some of the final stat lines from this one, 74-67, the final score. Two scores with 10 points in this contest for Penn State, Seth Lundy and John Harris. Seth Lundy held scoreless in that first half, came up with some clutch buckets down the stretch for the Nittany Lions late in this game. He finished with 10. And then, obviously, you look at the rest of the stat lines right there. Greg Lee with a couple of big buckets down the stretch. He finished with 11 points. And then Jalen Pickett led the way for Penn State with 21 points in this contest as he now visits with us here on the post-game show live for Penn State men's basketball. Jalen, obviously not the outcome that you guys wanted here on Saturday afternoon, but what is your biggest takeaway from this one?
They're every team in the country. And this is how we wanted to play. We wanted to play them tough and see where we were. We've been getting better throughout the whole year. So if we can come out like this and just keep practicing hard to keep competing and playing how we want to, we're right there with everybody. 21
points for you this afternoon. What was clicking for you out on the court from start to finish?
Coach Shrewsbury just does a great job with the scout and everything. We knew what Purdue was going to do, and, just practicing shots out there, taking the game all week, just getting to spots. And, I got to credit my bigs, always setting great screens and being able to get me open. And then, of course, just the great floor spacing we have with shooters like Seth Lundy, Miles Dredd.
What was the difference down the stretch late there in this game?
I think just experience. They were together all last year and everything, so they knew how to play down the stretch. And, we've had a couple of close games this year already, but, we're just getting everybody out there. This was Greg Lee's basically first time or second time at home playing together, so we're just all trying to still get that cohesiveness.
You came over here and you said we were right there. We were right there down the stretch in this one. You just talked about being a few shots away, obviously the veteran experience, but what can you take away from this one that you can now apply for the next situation you're in against a top opponent like this?
Coach Shrewsbury says it's always a 40-minute game, and we know coming out the second half every time we end up losing the lead or we go down and we dig ourselves a hole, come out second half and got to fight back. So that's going to be something we're going to try and improve on, coming right out of halftime and really jumping on people and not taking the lead from 5 points, being down 5 points, being down 10. That's a big jump for us right there. So then at the end of the game, it's closer and we're a little bit more fresh.
Purdue is a team that came in averaging over 85 points a game. You held them to 74 points. That now makes another game that you guys have held a team to under their season total average by 10-plus points. What has been so effective as of late on the defensive side of the ball?
Definitely our talk and on the defense. And defense wins championships, and we take pride in that.
It's Jalen Pickett joining us here live on the post-game show. Jalen, appreciate your time. We'll see you back here inside the Bryce Jordan Center on Tuesday.
Thank you so much.
Jalen Pickett finishes with 21 points in today's contest, 9 of 20 from the field, 10 assists, and a team-high 39 minutes as we await head coach Micah Shrewsbury to address the local media at his press conference right there. Let's take a look back at some of the highlights in this contest. Once again, 74-67, the final score in this game. First half was all back and forth in this one. A very balanced first half according to the stat sheet in this one, as Purdue had a 35-30 lead at the break. Jalen Pickett led the way with 12 points on 5 of 11 from the field, 6 assists, and a team-high 19 minutes played in that first half. Both teams shot 43% from the field and 71% from the cherry stripe. 9 points off turnovers for Penn State to Purdue's 8 in that first half. Both teams also had 8 second-chance points. Penn State was 16 points in the paint and 6 bench points in that first half. The zone defense for Penn State was very successful in that first half. You heard from some of the Purdue student athletes addressing the local media and saying that's something that they weren't expecting in this contest. That zone defense was successful for Penn State. Very evenly balanced first half according to the stat category in this one. Mentioned a few moments ago, Seth Lundy held scoreless in that first half. He did finish this game with 10 points total for Penn State. Purdue came out hot in the second half. As you take a look at the first half stats right there, 43% from the field, 7 points off turnovers, 17 first half rebounds, 16 points in the paint for Penn State, as it was a 35-30 game in this one. But for now, we're going to turn it on over to the press conference, where Purdue's head coach addresses the local media.
Defensive effort was a little bit better than
Well, they probably had their best surge, at the end of the game in terms of, making threes and making plays. Pickett was doing a great job of getting deep, and he's a tough cover. And then he did a good job of finding some guys and scoring. But, we were going to have to put, back-to-back stops together to close out the game, or we were going to get beat. And I thought had a couple really good possessions where they took tough threes, and we had one where Pickett took an impossible three and still made it. But at the end, we did a good job of just making it harder on them to shoot it. Once you get them in a position where they're probably going to shoot a three, it helps us a little bit. So it's not the best of both worlds. When he gets so deep with the basketball, we don't want to help off their five and he'll get a dunk. We don't want to help off a three-point shooter. He'll get a three. And so we just had to have a balance, and we had to do a better job of not letting him get that deep off the bounce. But yeah, it was great to see our guys, make some plays defensively and rebound the ball. Ethan made those free throws. I thought Mason was great in wanting the basketball late. How the shots that he took late in the game, he really wanted them and stepped into them and shot them with, some rhythm.
Matt, how often do you practice without either Zach or Trayvon on the floor? And how big of a challenge is that when you have to do that in game?
Yeah, we don't practice without him. So, because we've worked so hard to help, Caleb, to play the four, because that's where he's got a better chance to get minutes in this year. And so, yeah, he doesn't get there much. But he's used to playing, the five, so, and running stuff. But I thought our guys did a good job. It was a frustrating game for those guys. And I think anytime big guys get in foul trouble, it's frustrating.
Just that stretch in the first half where you're able to force some turnovers, but also do enough offensively without your centerpieces on the floor.
Right.
How important was that in the overall story?
Yeah, Shrews did a good job of switching some things up, going zone, going box and one, and putting us into a bind when we had some different lineups out there. And I thought our guys adjusted pretty well, even though we a couple times didn't know what we were doing. For the most part, I thought our guys did a good job of just, playing the game and, giving ourselves a chance.
sense this week from your players there was maybe a little bit of soul-searching sense of urgency that it kicked in after?
Well, you hope, your test is how you do in the game. You can act all, do what you want in practice. And for us, it's just building a habit more than anything. Just keep working at it and don't get too down when you struggle, and don't get too high. When you have success, understand that you got to keep building a habit, especially on the defensive end. We have to make improvements in that area. And anytime you can win close games, it helps you. As a coach, you don't want to be in them. But anytime you can win those games, I think it helps with your confidence. We just have to keep getting better in practice every day. You can't just win games and then come to practice and kind of go through the motions. Maybe that's a poor choice of words, but we just got to do a better job of playing on edge every day.
Games like this, sometimes the winning coach will say that the losing team's a well-coached team because they sort of played up to whatever they were playing against.
Mm-hmm.
What are the hallmarks for you of a well-coached team when you get everybody's best shot night in and night out?
Yeah, well, look, a well-coached team is just, something that they take something away from you, and so you can tell that they know their strengths, they stay away from their weaknesses, and they take something away. They try to get you to beat their team in a different way than you've been beating other people, and they just understand that. Now, sometimes you have the issue with a lot of it is, can you change and do different things and people can follow that? Because you get into your pattern of working and getting better and improving on things, and you just want to be better at what you do. Everybody thinks when you struggle a little bit that you should change. I'm from a different school of thought. I think you should be better at what you do. With the film and everything that's at our fingertips now, we see everything. So you're not going to get by them. And at times when you go against other people, sometimes your focus can be too much on the other team and not enough on yours. I think all coaches are guilty of that. I know I'm guilty of that, because the most important team is your team. And you know what they can do. Sometimes they can take in a volume of plays or a volume of different things. And sometimes they can't. And you got to be able to gauge that. And you only gauge that through competition, when the popcorn's turning. And I think that for Penn State, trying to take away our size, trying to make it hard on our size, trying to bottle up Jaden Ivey, like that's not, a crazy thought there. That's a pretty simple thought of how to handle us. But we also got some guys that can shoot, so you can stay with them. I thought the way they mix things up, like I would like our guys to execute better. When they changed, we worked and talked about the change, but yet we didn't do a very good job at that time. And that's why you do it. You do it because it's something that's different. But when people expect it and people know it's coming, and it's a little bit different. That's a little bit different. So as a coach, sometimes those subtle changes or whatever can help you in a game, but they might not be pillars going forward, to win 12, 13, 14, 15 games in our conference.
Matt, what are your overall impressions of Jalen Pickett after you facing him for the first time?
Oh, really good. And, he has that old man's game where he's upright with the basketball, he's hesitating, he's herky-jerky, so it's hard to kind of keep that focus with him. He loves that the dribble makes him comfortable. He's more of a dribble shooter than he is a catch and shooter. That doesn't give him quite the rhythm that the dribble does. But he can pass the basketball. He has good size. He can make a pull-up. There's not a lot of guys analytically that makes sense for them to shoot pull-ups and runners, even though everybody shoots them. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't know his numbers analytically, but it seems like his ball goes in a lot to me. So you've got to take up his space. And if you don't have the physical ability to take up his space, then he's just going to back you down. He's just going to get to his point. And then whether he shoots layups or step backs, it's just a hit or miss game at that point. He's a good player. It's the one thing. I've coached Division III, Division II, low major, mid major, and high major. I tell our guys all the time, like, there's good players everywhere. There's good players. I mean, those are the type of guys that you got to find when they're 17. How did that get away? Like, whatever, where was that kid when he was 17 or 18? And that's what we really try to work at Purdue, is try to evaluate and find those guys. And who cares who's recruiting them? Who cares who you beat for them? We've had a lot of guys have no high major offers, and they end up being great for us. Maybe not an NBA player, but they end up being a great role player that help us win a lot of games. So I think he's fabulous.
How much did Micah's familiarity with your offense and defense ultimately impact this game out that's all said and done?
That's a good question. I think that's hard to quantify. I said before the game that I think he has an advantage because he knows us. Like, he knows our personnel. Like, I haven't spent a day with his personnel. I can watch film, but I don't know them. Like, you know what I mean? He knows our players. He's coached our players. He's recruited some of them, and so I think that piece definitely gives him a little bit of an advantage in preparing for things. He knows who can make shots, who can't, but who can make shots late in crucial situations versus who can't, who to send left, who to send right, who to get into a pull-up, who to leave that alone, which way to send you in the post. All those little knick-knack things that give you a little bit of an advantage. So, but I don't think it was you still got to play the game, right? You know what I mean? You still got to play the game. And I think, our players are just a little bit better than their players.
Was there anything you saw from this Penn State team today that you thought was specifically a reflection of them being coached by Micah, if that makes any sense?
Just what they run. They run a lot of, I can't give our names for what it is, but that's how I would describe it. But, just the actions that they do and the spacing that they do. They ran a lot of what he does with the Celtics, just kind of that A to B to C. You deal with your five, and you play off of angles, and you play off of Pickett's ability to make a play, the other guy's ability to shoot, So, but that's more of the just kind of the spacing of what they do is what Brad did a lot of with Boston. He doesn't run a lot of stuff that we run, but yet he doesn't have the same personnel that we have. He has a good lead guard. He has some skilled guys with it. We have a couple low post guys, that we throw the ball to a lot. We have a dynamic guard that we try to get the ball to in the open court. So we have our personnel is a little bit different. But I got a guy on my team I've been coaching 5 years. I got 2 guys on my team I've been coaching 4 years. I got 3 guys on my team I've been coaching 3 years. So, we haven't taken transfers. We haven't done that. We've taken a little bit, not a lot. And so, we have kind of that corporate DNA. So, Sasha Stefanovic can coach our team, And so, we have it's really good. That's what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be old and be able to talk to guys and have relationships, and they know just as much as you, and they can help you, with that and a coach and a player. And sometimes when you just start, you don't have that. It kind of doesn't mean you can't be good, but you just don't have that yet because you haven't grown. You haven't spent, 4 or 5 years with somebody.
Why no Brandon Newman today?
I just stayed with the other guys more than anything. When you have 10, and we've kind of talked about it with it, I just stayed with Sasha more minutes and J.I. more minutes.
What was the emphasis on following up Seth Lundy, and how did you feel like you guys did?
Yeah. Well, I thought we did great in the first half, not just contesting, just not letting him get there. When you have a lead guard that got, he has 10 assists tonight, he's playing, and you got a big post, he's playing off those 2 guys a little bit. It's kind of a perfect situation for him. He got more of an opportunity in the second half. Sometimes it's what you're doing. Sometimes it's just, the ball doesn't come your way all the time. He makes tough shots, and that's what with those guys that can make those tough ones. That's sometimes that's great, and sometimes that's a struggle because when you take tough ones and you miss them, especially in crucial times, you want those back. But yet when it goes in, you're like, oh, that's great. He made one of his that was just unbelievable. But when you watch them play, he normally has 1 or 2 of those a game. I don't know what that percentage is. Pickett normally has 1 or 2 a game where they shoot the basketball. You're like, hey, man, that's a terrible shot. And bang, it goes in. But they consistently do it. And he's a good player, man. He came into our place 2 years ago and was probably the difference of the game. He had 6 threes. He was averaging 5 at the time. And he came in and, really changed the course of the game in the first half. But he's a good player, and he's a tough cover for us, who we put on him. How do we handle that when they have different lineups? That's tough for us.
You would limbo for Tuesday night at Michigan?
I haven't heard anything final yet, so it'll be interesting. I don't know all the details of it because I just got it this morning, and I haven't talked to anybody from the Big Ten or anything like that. I was more worried about Penn State. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
No problem.
That's Purdue's head coach Matt Painter addressing the local state college media here on Saturday afternoon, as we'll wait to hear from head coach Micah Shrewsbury, as well as a couple select Penn State student athletes following this game here inside the Bryce Jordan Center. While we await their presence, let's take a look back at some of the calls of the game via the Big Ten Network.
Here's Pickett off white screen. Down low, it's Lee! And a foul! Penn State fortunate that one did not go. No-look feed. Hara kicks it out. Lundy, can he hit again? Here's Pickett against Ivy. Draws Stu. Lee for the lead. State College, PA.
Greg Lee with a huge bucket there, but let's turn it back over to the press conference where it looks like Jalen Pickett and John Hara address the local media.
I think we prepared the same. Coach's whole message leading into this game is you don't have to do anything special. You just have to do the right things. And as long as you do the right things, we'll have a chance at the end of the game, which we did. And I think we all bought into his message and just tried doing the right things. Don't get out of yourself. Just play how you play. Be yourself, and we'll live with the result.
This one's for both of you. Any of you can answer. How do you think your defense stacked up tonight against some of the best players in the Big Ten?
I think our defense was pretty well tonight. We definitely had some lapses, but we got them to miss quite often. They just got the offensive rebound, so we have to finish possessions. But overall, I think we played really well on defense, long arms, and a lot of talk.
John, for you defensively, right? I mean, they have Edey, who you guys handled pretty well, and they're able, when he's in foul trouble, they're able to bring Williams off the bench. I mean, what kind of challenge does that present when they have two difference-making big guys down there that can hurt you?
Yeah, for sure. I think I did a good job of trying to get him in foul trouble in the first half, trying to make him think like once or twice about going. And then just to start the second half, I wasn't doing my job. I let Travion get 2 offensive rebounds, which set the tone for the next 12 minutes of the game. Like I'm supposed to be the one going and getting extra possessions for my team, not giving up extra possessions for the other team. So Travion's a great player. He's all Big Ten for a reason. And then we decided not to double, and I tried my best. I tried to make him miss, but he has unbelievable touch around the rim, and he's, as I said, all Big Ten player for a reason.
Also, on top of that, I think our team has to do a better job of helping John out down there. John's not the only one who can rebound. We all have to get in there and help, especially when we play teams like that who have 2-3 bigs coming at them.
Nate and then Ben.
John, you mentioned things starting to kind of slip there at the start of the second half. You guys got down double digits. What flipped then? What allowed you guys to kind of get back into it down the stretch?
Coach was kind of talking, our pregame speech was like a boxing match. Like Purdue's going to throw their punches, like go back to your corner, go back when it's a timeout. Let's go throw our punches. That's just a basketball game. I think you try to go on your runs. They played they were the tougher team. They set the rules for that, and then we come out. We have Jalen Pickett who hit a couple big shots for us, and then other guys got involved. And I think once our offense gets going, we get back and we can set our defense, which I think our set defense is one of the best in the Big Ten.
You guys have obviously played a lot of basketball over the course of your career. You lose some games. Sometimes you feel like you played really well and the other team was just better. You lose some games, and sometimes you feel like you didn't do anything that you wanted to do. How do you digest a loss where you feel like you did most of what you wanted to do, you played pretty well, and maybe they were just a little bit better in those moments? How is that different than maybe feeling like you just didn't play well at all?
I would say we just show up tomorrow and we do the same thing. Prepare the same way, practice the same way, don't stop the intensity, keep listening to Coach, keep buying into what he's telling us to do. Like, we don't have to change anything. We just got to clean a couple things up. And I don't know. I personally love coaches saying the toughest team sets the rules. Like, Travion, what he did when he went out, he set the rules. He got those 2 offensive rebounds over me. That's called setting the rules, setting the tone for the game. So I think as long as we keep listening to Coach, keep buying in, and keep just out-toughing teams, trying to out-tough them, we'll like the results coming up.
And Jalen, have the last couple of games been validating for you at all? I mean, not that you necessarily have questioned your abilities at all, but to watch the Big Ten maybe from a distance for a long time and now playing it and play the way you've played the last couple of games, does that kind of add a little, I belong here aspect to that?
I think it does a little bit, but I mean, it's all in preparation. Our team comes out and everybody works really hard and prepares really well because we all want the best for the team and we want success and we want to win. So just doing what's right and everybody getting in and working and everybody bringing in that camaraderie is really good for us.
Final question right here, and then I'll get Coach Shrewsbury.
Jalen, so during that COVID-19 related layoff where you had 3 games canceled, was there anything that you specifically worked on as a player that you think has been paying dividends since coming back from that break?
Yeah, when I was able to get in the gym, worked on, coming off ball screens, being able to shoot a little bit more threes, and then definitely just watching a whole lot of film on defensive end where I could be my positioning and just trying to get better there. Thank you.
All right, you guys.
Well, there's number 21, John Hara, and number 22, Jalen Pickett, addressing the local media following Saturday's game. Some great points made by both of those individuals. Back to the drawing board, and it starts tonight. turn the page tonight, flip it towards tomorrow as we wait to hear from head coach Micah Shrewsbury here in a few moments. There's one final look at the stat categories in this one. Both teams shooting pretty even against each other, 47% for Penn State, 48% for Purdue. Seth Lundy finished with 10 points in this contest despite being held scoreless in that first half for Penn State against Purdue. Greg Lee finishes with 11 points. He had some crucial buckets down the stretch in court, and including a couple of three-pointers in this one. Jalen Pickett finishes with 21 points. John Harrah finishes with 10 as well. Penn State will now turn the page towards Rutgers. January 11th, Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. on the Big Ten Network, or right back here inside the Bryce Jordan Center as we wait to hear from head coach Micah Shrewsbury coming up here in a few moments on the post-game live show. Let's take a look back at some of the highlights while we wait to hear from head coach Micah Shrewsbury at the podium here in a few seconds. But the first half was led by Jalen Pickett, who had 12 points on 5 of 11 from the field, 6 assists, and a team-high 19 minutes. Purdue had a 35-30 lead at the break, but both teams shot 43% in that first half, 71% from the charity stripe, a very balanced and pretty even first half in this game as you take a look at some of those highlights right now. 9 points off turnovers for Penn State, 2 Purdue's, 8 in that first half. Both teams with 8 second-chance points. Penn State was 16 points in the paint and 6 bench points in the first half. Penn State went on a 9-0 run over 223 to take a 21-18 lead in that first half. Purdue pushed back, though, with a 13-2 run of their own. 6 lead changes. This game was also tied 3 different times in that first half. A physical battle down low. You've heard both teams kind of address that here in their post-game press conferences. Both teams combined for just 5 3-point attempts as well. They made 5 3-point attempts, rather. Purdue attempted 11 in that first half. Zone defense was a key success in that first half for Penn State's defense specifically. No points for Seth Lundy in the first half. However, came out in the second half on fire down the stretch. Purdue came out hot to build a 10-point lead early in the second half, but Penn State's overcome a 10-plus point differential twice this season against Cornell and Northwestern. They nearly pulled that off again here this afternoon as Penn State cut it to a 7-point game, thanks in large part to Jalen Pickett's 3 with just over 10 minutes to play in this contest. Seth Lundy with a huge 3 to cut the lead to cut Purdue's lead to 6 with under 9 to play, and Greg Lee with an emphatic and 1 bucket down the stretch. Seth Lundy also had another key bucket down the stretch as Penn State would fall in this one, 74-67. Matt Painter said in his press conference, this is a team that you take something away from because of size and obviously battling up against Ivy down low for Penn State defensively, going up against Purdue's offense. Matt Painter, the head coach for Purdue, will hear from the head coach of Penn State's program here momentarily, head coach Micah Shrewsbury, as you take a look at some of those highlights right now down the stretch. 47-53 contest right there. You see Greg Lee with that big and 1 bucket with just over 8 minutes to play in this game. And then Seth Lundy, who was held scoreless in that first half, coming up with a clutch 3-pointer right there. Cuts Purdue's lead to 6 at that point in time. 62-57 you see right there. And then obviously some key buckets down the stretch for Purdue made the difference in this one with just a few moments remaining in this game. Corey Provis was on the lead play-by-play for the Big Ten Network in this one. Another big bucket there from Greg Lee, who hits a 3-pointer, 65-64. Penn State took the lead at that point in time. Let's go back and listen to some of the calls of the game from Corey Provis, who was on the call on the Big Ten Network.
Here's Pickett off the white screen. Down low, it's Lee! Penn State fortunate that one did not go. No-look feed. Harrah kicks it out. Lundy, can he hit again? Here's Pickett against Ivy. Draws 2. Lee for the lead. State College, PA.
State College, PA. Let's hear what head coach Micah Shrewsbury has to say to the local
Spent some time talking. We're going to talk about our teams and, I'm going to call him and try and get help from him too, right? Hopefully we won't have to play him again, but we can help each other now. I thought our guys really fought and competed. Like, we knew how tough this game was going to be. Like, they had lost, the game before, and we talked about what they were doing in practice and how hard those practices were going to be. But also, like, that doesn't have anything to do with us. Like, we play hard because we're supposed to play hard every single time, whether we won 2 games in a row, lost 2 games in a row, whether we're playing the number 3 team in the country or the number 353 team in the country, and our guys are doing that. And I'm proud of their effort. I hate losing. You guys know this. I hate losing. But when you prepare the right way, when you play and you leave everything out there on the court, you can feel okay with the results. And I feel okay with the results. Like I said, I hate losing. But we were a good version of ourselves, and we left everything on the court. And we'll get back to work tomorrow and get ready for Rutgers.
Mike, it seemed like Seth couldn't really get going in the first half. How much of that was what you guys were doing offensively, and how much was he was spending a lot of energy guarding Jaden Ivey at times too?
Yeah, he's guarded. I mean, really, this whole season, he's been on the best player on the other team almost every game, if they have a wing player that's like that. So I think he's okay. I don't think that really took anything from him. They did a good job of kind of in our split cuts taking away the initial handoffs or the quick hit and ball screen and things that we wanted to do. They just made that tough on us. And I think he was slow to get going in that way because they were denying him the ball on those cuts. So we needed to do a better job of cutting, tight curling to get him off of our bodies a little bit, or using the 5 and then screening. So we tried to do more of that. But I think late he got some open shots just, off Pickett drawing a lot of help. So, those are all things that we got to continue to correct. And, we need to be better out of timeouts. When we have opportunities to get him the ball and do stuff for him, like, we got to be locked into that, and we got to execute. And, that'll help him get more shots as well.
What are the positive residuals of a game where maybe at the end of the day they're just a little bit better than you, and it's not so much that you shot yourself in the foot or didn't play well, you do a lot of the things that you want to do, and they just beat you? I mean, is there a residual there that you can kind of work with moving forward?
I don't know. I mean, the residual of that is kind of ruins my night, I guess. I'm going to walk upstairs and I'm going to watch this film and figure out how we can get better. I don't, the residual of this is, like, I'm going to always fight for our program. I'm going to do that first and foremost. Like, what I don't like, and I feel disrespect. I get disrespected over everything, though, so you got to take this with a grain of salt. I don't like when people say that loss sucks for Indiana and that's a bad loss. Like, we're not a bad team. We're not. Like, if you look at the teams that have beaten us, Miami's like 12-3. Should be ranked, close to being ranked. I don't know. We've lost to Michigan State, who's ranked probably top 10 in the country. We've lost to Ohio State. We've lost to LSU, who are all in the top 25. Right? There's 4. There's 4 losses. Now we've lost to Purdue, who's number 3 in the country. So, like, we're not a bad team. It's taken us a little time to get where we want to be. But, like, if people want to come in here and take us lightly, they can do that every day of the week that they want to. But I'm always going to fight for this group. They play as hard as possible. We just went toe-to-toe with the number 3 team in the country. On the glass, matched their intensity, shot the same from basically 3, the free throw line, from the field, everything else. So people that don't watch basketball think this is a bad loss when people come in here and get beat. Right? Watch the game, understand the game, think about the game, and then make your decision about what's a bad loss and what isn't.
Hey, Mike, are there challenges that come if you prepare a scouting report all week for a team that's going to have a giant center on the floor all the time, and then they don't because of foul trouble? the end of the first half, obviously they played without Travion and Zach on the floor. Were there challenges to that too on the fly, kind of in a backhanded sort of way?
Not too much. We didn't really prepare for Caleb to play the 5, but it kind of goes back to, they're not going to run as much stuff in the post for him, right? Like it's going to be more ball screen actions for Jaden or more things for Sasha. But yeah, like we just go back to playing our regular defense and how we do it. It just kind of adjusts to who's doing what, who's doing where. You just know. Like Caleb First, a good player though, right? They could throw it to him and get a bucket. He's a McDonald's All-American. He's a really good player. But it didn't change like how we prepared or what we did or had to adjust. We just knew. Like we always talk about, where's the fire, right? Like the fire is Travion and Zach in the post. The fire is Sasha running off those screens. Well, if Zach and Travion aren't in, the fire adjusts. The fire goes somewhere else, and then you have to, take care of that.
Just the impact Mason Gillis had on the game.
Yeah, huge shots, just huge shots. We talked about his rebounding. With this team, you have to pick and choose, right? Like you can't take everything away. There's a bunch of dudes that can shoot, and they have 2 monsters in the paint. And then guys rebounding on the glass. Like, what do you take away versus the number 1 offensive team in the country? You have to kind of cat and mouse Mason Gillis a little bit and try and, like, he's got to beat you, right? Like, can't let Sasha beat you, can't let the bigs beat you. They can't, get kick out open shots for Isaiah. And Mason, like, kudos to him. He made some huge shots, big shots for them down the stretch. And, sometimes you got to take a gamble. Sometimes the gamble works for you, and sometimes it doesn't. I'm not much of a gambler. I'm pretty cheap with my money.
Micah, how do you think your team played overall tonight, guarding Jaden and Travion, and overall, what still needs to improve down the stretch?
Yeah, I thought we did. I thought we did pretty well defensively. They scored 74 points. I don't know what they came in averaging, but they're a lot, 89, something like that. Like, we got them to play more of our tempo, more in half court, play against half court defense. We did a great job of getting back. They're so good. Jaden's so good at pushing the ball in transition, getting to the basket or kicking it out for threes, and we tried to eliminate that, and I thought we did. And then we forced it into a half-court game, and then you just do the best you can. And I thought our guys did that. I thought we fought, like, as hard as we could, and, there were some things that, like, we played some zone. We played 3 different zones. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But you got to change things up. They're so good at reading what you do and getting into the feel of things and into a rhythm. They make it hard on you. Like for us, we have to play the exact same way. With the way we compete, the effort we play with, the togetherness we play with. We have to play the exact same way, no matter if, like I said, if we're playing number 3 in the country or number 353, we have to do the exact same way. And that gives us a chance every night. It gave us a chance against Indiana. It gave us a chance against Northwestern. It gave us a chance against Purdue. And it'll give us a chance against Rutgers.
Mike, it's kind of tough to fixate on the last 2 minutes when you made 9 straight going into it, but did you like the looks that you got at the end, and just kind of how you came out of that?
Yeah. It allowed them to kind of take away what we were doing, like when they got up. Like, Travion gets a 3-point play. Now we're down a little bit more. Now we have to kind of change what we're doing, try and get a quick win here because we're up against the clock a little bit. And so that took us away from what we wanted to do, right? If it's a 2-point game or a 3-point game, 1-point game, we probably stay with what we were doing in the pick and roll. But we had to change it, try and get a quick bucket out of a timeout. They took it away, what we were looking for, and then we were scrambled a little bit there at the end. I didn't want to burn another timeout coming out of the side out, just because like now you're down to 0 and you can't draw up anything late if you need it. So we executed for a long time. Like we executed better as the game went on. There's 2 games in a row. We've gotten better as the game goes on because we're starting to see different things, and our guys are doing a great job of reading what the defense is doing, and then, you know, we go on a barrage of shot making.
Micah, what has Greg Lee's presence unlocked for you guys, whether it's on the glass or offensively, and what impact did he have tonight?
Yeah, Greg. Like, we obviously miss Greg, right, at the start of the season. Not having him until right before Christmas. And then the time that he would have had, like, he needed the 3 games that we missed more than anybody to get his rhythm back. He got it a little bit. Greg can really score the ball. He can score the ball. We can throw it to him in the post. He can score. He can step out, face up, and shoot. And when we need some baskets, we got it to him around the basket. And he made some nice plays. We didn't hit him, right? We didn't make those threes, but he made nice reads when people start doubling. He's a weapon for us. And since he's been back, since we've been back since Christmas, right? We were plus 10 on the glass against Indiana. We were plus 12 on the glass at Northwestern. And we go even against Purdue, right? Like, we're starting to dominate on the glass, and he's doing it. His effort, John's effort, Jelani White's effort, total team. But those 3 guys are doing a great job, and we got to keep Greg's rhythm going, and because he can help us, he can get us easy baskets, which is what we need.
Some more questions, John and Ben?
Micah, you talked earlier this week a lot about this game and how close you were with a lot of people at Purdue. What were your emotions like leading up to this game, and did you feel like any of that bled into the game once it tipped off?
Not really. Not really. You know, I knew this would be a tough game. It's not the first time I've done it, right? I've coached other places and left and had to coach against them again. So, like, it wasn't that big of a deal. I think, you know, once the game got going, you know, you're not even thinking about who's down on the other sideline. You're just competing. I saw a bunch of those guys before the game, right? So you get some of that out of the way. But, like, we're all friends. But we're all competitors. And, like, they want to win that game as bad as we wanted to win that game. And that was it. That was all my whole mindset. I'm pretty I don't even know what to say. I got like a one-track mind. And I was just locked into trying to help us win. And I knew Coach Paint was going to do that. And, like, you know, and then once it was over, like, it's over, right? Sorry I made you guys wait because I was out there talking to him about different things. Not even about the game. He's telling me stories about stuff that happened. If you guys know Coach Painter, he likes to tell stories. But we were out there, he's telling me stories about different things that happened in practice and everything else. So now I can call him more and ask him questions about other teams when we start playing. So I guess that's the benefit of this.
You talked about watching film of this game. When you sort of self-evaluate yourself after a game, which I guess is what self-evaluation means, what are sort of the check boxes that you want to check off of this was a well-coached game, I'm satisfied, if you're ever satisfied with how you handled things for the most part?
Yeah. We had since we've come back from Christmas, and I had those days off, and I talked about it, I think, after the Indiana game. We really went back and looked at what was working and what wasn't working. Here's the areas we need to improve on. Here's what we're doing. So I just look at those areas. What's our transition defense look like? Are we doing a good job there? What's our three-point defense look like? Are we doing a good job there? Like, you know, go the other side of the ball. Our turnovers, I'll look at those, how they're happening. I'll look at our offensive rebounding and if we're doing well there. So I go back and check those areas. And then, you know, after that, then I'll probably figure out how can I put, like, where are the areas I can help us, you know, maybe get easier shots, or what can we do to do something better? I mean, I think it may not look like it, but, you know, we changed some stuff up. It probably all looks the same to you, but, like, you know, based on how they were going to guard us, based on their personnel, there were like 2 or 3 different things that we were going to try and stay in offensively and just run those to get the best action. So Like, did those work? Did those not work? Is that something like you may not see it again the rest of the season, right? It may not. There may not be another team where it would work against. So it could be something completely different against Rutgers. So that's what I look at. Like, the opportunities of, can we get easier shots? Can I help us defensively? Should we have stayed man or zone? I'll take a look at that stuff. But we gave an effort. We gave our best effort, and that's all I care about.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. How you doing?
We gave our best effort, and that's all I can ask for. That's head coach Micah Shrewsbury addressing the local media following today's game against number 3 Purdue as Penn State falls 74-67. Some good nuggets to take away from head coach Micah Shrewsbury right there. One quote he said is, "We fought and competed. Proud of their effort, as in Penn State, and left everything on the floor today. And for that, he can feel okay with the outcome in this one." Obviously, him and the Purdue program are very close to each other. That's a program that he's been around for a number of years, rather. Talking about being in the hallway with head coach Matt Painter, sharing some stories about practice and things away from the court. There's obviously a deep relationship between those two head coaches. Micah Shrewsbury also saying he'll fight for this program day in and day out. He's going to go up right after this, watch the tape, and obviously it ruins his night to have a loss like this, and that's an attitude that you want from a head coach of a new program. He said, "We aren't a bad team, and if anybody wants to come in here and take us lightly, they can do that, but it's not going to necessarily be the best of outcomes for those oppositions." Talking about how Indiana came in here and lost and how people around the country are saying that's a bad loss for Indiana. No, Penn State's not a bad basketball team. They continue to put games together. They continue to string things together, and you can see that pay off against top opponents such as Purdue. Gave everything, and that's what you asked for. Take a look at the first half totals right there, and then the score as well going into the break. A 35-30 lead for Purdue in this one. Jalen Pickett led the way for Penn State with 12 points at the break on 5 of 11 from the field, 6 assists in a high 19 minutes. But it was Purdue that came out hot in the second half, built a 10-plus point lead, and Penn State battled right back and cut it to a 7-point game, thanks in large part to a Jalen Pickett huge three. See Seth Lundy's huge bucket right here to cut the lead. Actually, it's not Seth Lundy. We're gonna see Seth Lundy's bucket here in a second. But here's Jalen Pickett's big time three right here. Boom, buckets for Jalen Pickett. He finished with 21 points in this game on 9 of 20 from the field, 10 assists, and a team high 39 minutes. Here's the Seth Lundy bucket right here. This was a huge three with just over 8 minutes to play in this game, just under 9 minutes, exactly 8:54 left on the clock. And then Greg Lee, another emphatic and one down the stretch as well. A couple of big-time buckets from a couple of big-time playmakers in this one as Penn State ultimately loses this game 74-67 down the stretch. Penn State will be back in action this upcoming Tuesday against Rutgers back here inside Bryce Jordan Center on January the 11th at 6:30 p.m. Hopefully we'll see all of you back here inside the Bryce Jordan Center. A great crowd for Nittany Nation today here in Happy Valley. The lower bowl inside the Bryce Jordan Center, I'd say about 85 to 90% full for this contest against Penn State and number 3 Purdue. Once again, they'll take on Rutgers Tuesday, January 11th at 6:30 p.m. on the Big Ten Network or right back here inside the Bryce Jordan Center. Hope everybody has a great Saturday afternoon wherever you're watching from, whether that's on the West Coast, East Coast, or right here in State College, Pennsylvania. Until then, have a great afternoon.